Your Excellency, Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, my dear sister, and our own generous host. Thank you very much, Madam President. Your Excellency, Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairman of the African Union. Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Deputy Secretary General of United Nations, my dear sister Amina Mohammed, the President of the World Bank Group, my brother Ajay, President of Rockefeller Foundation, Raj, heads of multilateral development finance institutions, honorable ministers, private sector leaders, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Africa Energy Summit. I wish to thank Your Excellency President Samia Suluhu Hassan for graciously and generously hosting us for this summit. You are such a remarkable leader. And it's always a joy to be in Tanzania. I wish to express our deepest appreciation to the Chairman of the African Union, President Ghazouani, the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, for co-hosting this summit. I am extremely grateful to you, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, for honoring our invitation, for being here in such large and unprecedented numbers. It shows the high priority and the political commitment you place on expanding the access of your populations to electricity. Access to electricity is critical for Africa's economic growth. The lack of adequate electricity reduces the GDP of Africa by 2 to 4%. Your Excellencies, since the African Development Bank Group launched the New Deal on Energy for Africa in 2016, at the start of my first term as President of the African Development Bank, working with all our partners, significant progress has been made in expanding access to electricity. The share of the population with access to electricity in Africa significantly increased from 39% in 2015 to 52% in 2024. The African Development Bank Group has supported over 25 million people to have access to electricity. However, despite the progress being made, Africa still has 571 million people without electricity, accounting for 83% of the global population without electricity. Over 1 billion people do not have access to clean cooking solutions, which negatively impacts on women's health, children's health, and lives. We must take decisive actions to further drive down these numbers, and that is why Ajay Banga, President of the World Bank Group, and I joined together to launch the Mission 300 with a goal of expanding access of 300 million people in Africa to electricity by 2030. Mission 300 has grown into a global movement, and we were joined by the African Union, Commission, several global partners, including the Rockefeller Foundation, the Sustainable Energy for All of the United Nations, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, and we are not alone. We have just been joined as well by the Islamic Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the French Development Agency, Agence Française de Développement, and several bilateral development agencies. We will not succeed, Your Excellencies, if we do not work closely and more openly with more space for the private sector. And that is why we are delighted that several leading CEOs from around the world have joined us today. Critical reforms will be needed to expand the share of renewables, improve functioning and performance of utilities, transparency in licensing, power purchase agreements, and predictable tariffs regimes that reflect the cost of production. The private sector will also need to play a critical role to expand mini-grids and off-grid systems to reach millions of people without access to grid-based power in rural areas. Our collective effort is to support you, our heads of state and government, to develop and to implement clear actions embedded in country-led national energy compacts, your compacts, to deliver on your visions for electricity in your respective countries. The African Development Bank and the World Bank have developed a very clear path to achieving the 300 million access goal. Together, the African Development Bank and the World Bank will commit $40 billion towards the Mission 300. With $18.2 billion from the African Development Bank and $22 billion from the World Bank Group. And Ajay will talk about that when he comes on board. It is an unprecedented alliance. Thank you very much, Ajay. We couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much. And thank you very much to Russia, President Rockefeller Foundation, for providing critical technical assistance, support of $20 million that made the preparation of the country energy compacts possible. Thank you very much to you and your colleagues. Compacts possible. Thank you very much to you and your colleagues. Your Excellencies, support for Mission 300 keeps pouring in. Yesterday, at the first day of the summit, several development partners made huge announcements in support of Mission 300. The President of the Islamic Development Bank Group announced $2.65 billion in support. The President of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank announced $1.5 billion in support. The President of the OPEC Fund announced $1 billion in support. And the French government will be making a major announcement today. We are confident that other development partners here and elsewhere will join us and announce their respective commitments either today and after. Your Excellencies, as I close, I'd like to thank you and to say we need your personal leadership to get this done. Together, let us decisively use Mission 300 to deliver 300 million people in Africa with access to electricity in all your countries by 2030. The African Development Bank's $20 billion Desert to Power program will complement Mission 300 and develop 10,000 megawatts of solar power across 11 Sahelian countries and provide access to electricity for an additional 250 million people. Therefore, the Mission 300 and the Desert to Power working collectively will provide 550 million Africans with electricity. That, Your Excellencies, will deliver universal access to electricity for Africa. What a difference that will make for your respective countries. And what a difference that will make for Africa. You will be remembered, Your Excellencies, as the presidents who gave your countries 100% access to electricity. You will be remembered as the presidents who said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Thank you very much, and asante sana.